Hi, this is Peggy from Career Wisdom, and today I have a wonderful, wonderful guest. It's a total treat. She's a great friend of mine, and it's Elle AyoubZadeh. I'm sorry, I knew I would.
No, perfect.
Sure
Actually, perfect, my dear.
You know,
Yeah.
and so you're the founder, the CEO of Zavel. I mean, a very successful brand. I love the fact that we can see some of your products behind. So I want to hear more about that. So first, thank you for being with us today.
A pleasure. Thanks for having me, Peggy. I'm excited to chat with you today.
Well, I'm very excited because you have such an interesting profile. You know, like you're a woman of color, you're an immigrant, you also had very challenging life circumstances, and you're a successful entrepreneur. And I think that's very interesting to see how, despite all this adversity, you've been able to make a career. And I think that's something our viewers want to hear more of. It's great to be successful when, you know, maybe you had very good cards in your hand. It's great to hear about someone who maybe was dealt cards that were not as easy in today's world. So I'm really excited to hear about you. And I just want to add a few things before we jump in. So you know, if I think about you, there are a few words that come to mind. And you are probably the most generous, courageous, compassionate, kind person I know, and who I'm very happy to be friend with. So I think that's really the first thing. And the second thing is you've been very successful with Zavel. You are literally providing beautiful shoes and bags made in Italy to the well-heeled, not to make a joke, the well-heeled people of all walks of life, from the business, the finance, the politics space, and you have a lot to share because again, your background is just so exceptional. So without further ado, let's get started. And so tell us more about your professional journey and also, you know, this background that obviously made you who you are today.
Yeah. Well, I want to say that I feel exactly the same way about you. And it's a privilege, you know, to have you as a beautiful friend in my life. Like if I look at my career up until now, and I feel like I'm only just, you know, getting started. Even I had like three phases. The first phase was, you know, being the daughter of immigrants, you're always pushed to study, you know, medicine or dentistry or, you know, engineering or law. And then if you do anything else, you're kind of a loser and your parents hope you don't bring shame to the family. And I didn't want to do any of those things. So, you know, starting out and even at university, I thought I wanted to be a clinical psychologist. Mm-hmm. And I studied psychology up until to the point where I failed a paper and I had to, you know, replace it with something else. And I took a marketing class and then I finished my BCom, and just like, you know, all other immigrants, you know, immediately like, you know, signed up for a postgraduate. And I remember telling my mom that I don't want to do this psychology. I enjoy this marketing, and I'm going to go, you know, pursue this MBA-like program in international marketing. And in her saying like, what, you're going to be a salesperson? Like, she just didn't understand. And, but she was okay that I was going to go get this, you know, MBA kind of thing. So she was like, oh, you know, made her happy. And while I was doing that, part of the program was that you have to write a thesis for the company. Yeah. And I had this, you know, this interesting opportunity to work with Lancome. They were just starting out in New Zealand. And while I was working on that, I met a gentleman who wanted to help people with disabilities get into the job market.
Okay.
And I have a brother who has a disability. He's 33 years old. He has a developmental disability, and, you know, he'll always be like a 2-year-old. And he's had a big influence on my life. And, you know, I was so inspired to, you know, to do something different that I went to my, you know, thesis supervisor and I said, you know, I don't want to do this. I want to, you know, package my thesis and write about people with disabilities. And I think that I can write about it as packaging intangibles, which would still apply to the luxury market, which would still, make it a business case. And he wasn't so convinced, but the first thing, he did, he looked at me, he goes, "Are you sure? Because you look more like a makeup girl." But I didn't, and it was like, "Are you sure?" It's like, like Lancome, like you're going to be interviewing with them like this, and I was like, I'm pretty sure. And I left that. I didn't even think about it. And I went and had the best time, of my life writing this thesis and, meeting with, different levels of government in New Zealand and really talking about getting people with disabilities into the job market. Now, the thesis itself, I'm like, hey, it could have been better, but it was more about, about this kind of like this passion I had. And I was, just meeting with like all kinds of professionals who, some people who were like, at highest levels of government who were blind, and asking them for their experience, how did you get into? And it was just, that passion drive me. And that was, if I look back, that was a defining moment in my life, because unlike the rest of the students in my class, I wasn't thinking like I want to go land a job with L'Oreal or like an LVMH company. I wanted to do things that I was passionate about. And from there, how I got into finance was I was living in New Zealand. And I wanted to, see the world, and I love New Zealand, but it was a small place. It still is, but I wanted, bigger opportunities. And I literally, I didn't have money. So my mom bought me this one-way ticket to Sydney, Australia. I had $1,500. And I didn't know anyone in Australia. I made a couple of cold calls, got a couple of meetings. But I basically had to find a job and a place to live ASAP. And it was also right between the period of Christmas and New Year's, which, is not the best time to look for a job because, people are busy, all of this, but, trust me not to pay attention to ideal timing. And I just, I went, and literally it was like, and at the time as well, the thing is that Sydney, there was a lot of problems where Australia was having with this whole, it was people in Sydney were like, it was this big fights with the Lebanese people and just, all kinds of, I think, racist kind of things going on. And nobody wanted to go to Sydney that, had like looked like me, like brown skin. People were like, don't go because, like there's all this racism happening with this issue. And it's solved now, but it was a problem. No one, nobody can tell the difference between a Persian or like and an Arab or Lebanese. But I was just like, no, that's not going to stop me. So I went 26th of December. That's the first day I landed, and then on the 27th, I had a interview with a recruiter. Trying to get a job, and he said, you sound like someone who would be great at making deals. Why don't you come back in a couple of hours and meet with these two guys, my client with Commonwealth Bank of Australia? So I went and grabbed the coffee. I came back and I spoke to these, two guys, and they literally offered me a job on the spot, and I started on Monday.
Great.
And it was this rotation program they had, which they grill everybody and they put you through all kinds of test hoops. So basically, you do it for 6 weeks or like four weeks. I can't remember now. But at the end, the best people get jobs, and other people kind of don't get jobs, but you get paid for it. So I did that, and because I'm so competitive, I was like the top of the class. I'm a nerd. I wanted to do well. Wasn't like, and I had no finance background. By the way, you
have no choice than to do well.
No, I had to do it.
Roof,
Yeah, I had to do it. Yeah. So that's how I got into finance, and it was like my first finance job was like it was called direct funds, but here it was like retail investing. So I would literally call people on the phone and say, "Hey, do you want to invest in this little fund? Hey, do you want to buy? Do you want to buy that?" And of course, people would hang up on me, all kinds of things. but I worked on the trading floor, and it was just, I love that buzz. I love that feeling. And, from there, I realized that, I wanted to have more of an impact, on a business. And so I moved over to State Street Global Advisors, and I was working in marketing and helping, their portfolio managers pitch. And then, long story short, I got this lovely promotion, and I came to Canada. And right before the credit crisis.
Yeah.
So, and I didn't know anyone in Canada. Just which I joke with. I moved from New Zealand to Australia with a suitcase full of shoes and books, and then the same thing here in Canada. So at the credit crisis, and it was a really an eye opener. Because, most people think coming from, like, say, Australia to Canada, there isn't a culture shock. It's speak English, it's Commonwealth. But it really was a culture shock for me, because the Australian office, even though it was the same company, it was nothing like, the culture wasn't anything. The culture of the company inside those offices was nothing. I came in, an outspoken person, and people just found me very aggressive. But I guess they found my persistence, and so I butted heads with a lot of people. And the good news is, when you're young and naive, it just doesn't bother you as much as when you're more experienced. But it was it was a really great experience, even though of course there's challenges and everything you can imagine. I experienced, like sexism, ageism. I don't know about racism, because just growing up, when you're the daughter of a single immigrant mother, you don't really pay attention to these things, because even if you pay attention to it, it's not as if you're going to do something about it, because you just focus on getting to the next thing. Exactly. So and actually you don't have the luxury to pay attention.
Exactly.
So
it's the luxury, you're right, because
it's like
on surviving.
You're just surviving.
Think, okay, they told me that chick told me
if stuff happens, you're like, okay, this just happened. Okay, how am I gonna? It's all about surviving. So you don't think that. And I don't want to just keep on rambling, but the third phase is when I decided that I didn't want to spend my life working the way I was working in finance, and that realizing that I'm more passionate about making an impact versus staying somewhere with golden handcuffs, because I can buy nice things. Of course, I appreciate nice things, but so the third phase was I was doing a lot of volunteer work in the angel capital space.
Remember that,
and I was really interested in venture capital, so I decided to leave my job and to go run Maple Leaf Angels, which is just Ontario's first angel group, and really to professionalize the group, because typically angel groups, how they start is a bunch of guys that want to start, and in this case it was somebody who came from a wealthy family, had started it, but really it just wasn't a professional group, and it had a sort of a bad reputation on how entrepreneurs were being treated. So when I came in, I went and met all the entrepreneurs who had pitched, and I would hear things like I'm pitching and the guy is opening his mail, and opening his mail, or I'm pitching and other stuff which out of respect for them I won't say here. And it was just a lot of those, and it was, a lot of people thought it was career suicide, because it's not as if these angel groups at the time anyway, I don't know what's happening now, you're not earning money, right? It's you're just and I just realized through that is that I don't want to be a paper pusher for old rich people. I really wanted, that's literally what it was. I was a paper pusher, but it was a great experience. And I think what that taught me is that, I'm willing to, I was at a stage where I was willing to really take a risk on myself, no matter what the consequences, because, I just didn't want, I think where our time on this earth is limited.
Yeah.
And I like to, remind myself of that. I just didn't want, my last day to be like, oh, I wish I would have done this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's the right, I think that's the right approach. It's a scary approach, but that's the, and you've always had this entrepreneurial streak, which I think, back to your point, like when your mother immigrated to New Zealand, you had to fight for yourself, kind of, for your family, and moving without having a job to Australia. I mean, it's probably more of an entrepreneurial spirit than starting a company when your finances are already well taken care of, because there is no downside, and I do remember us, when we met, like, I don't know, 10 years ago at a Women in Capital Market.
Yes.
Yeah, so Elle and I were running actually some mentor lunch, if I remember.
Yes, mentor lunch. I remember those.
Some subcommittees and all that. We were all, fresh eyes, bushy tails. Let's put it that way. Both fresh to Toronto. So we didn't really understand what was happening. But I remember I was so impressed with you, and you were so driven and so entrepreneurial in your spirit, while I was more, large company type of gal, and not that it's a bad thing, but very different mindset. And you've really grown into yourself, actually.
Yeah. And what I love about your spirit is that you always think about the big picture, which I really, really like. And you can apply that actually in big companies and in small companies. And I think it's, I give you a lot of credit because in big companies, there's so much politics, of this and that. And I'm not a political person. And I'm not politically correct either. So I remember it was just, I would do things that people are like, you're not supposed to do it this way.
Yeah.
But and I would, always piss people off for the sake of the bigger vision. Yeah.
So and I appreciate it. So tell us more about, your entrepreneurial experience. I think one of the things we're talking a bit offline is also you're changing your approach from being, okay, let's do the traditional things you're supposed to do, networking, working 100 hours a week, to something that's more maybe art-led, if I can say that. And I'd love to dig a bit on that, because it's a very different message than what we tend to have, which is usually very unidimensional. Yeah.
Yeah. I started Zavel. I didn't go to, fashion school. I didn't know actually anyone, in the shoe industry. And I think that, there's like two ways to look at it, is that, one way is like, well, that's absolutely the wrong person to, like start that kind of company. And there's people that think like that. And then there's the other way that, well, actually maybe this, this person can bring something, a different perspective. And, if you are a kind of like a serial entrepreneur, people are like, oh yeah, we can see this person, coming in and working on a new industry. But if you don't have that kind of reputation and it's your first time, people really think that you're just mental. That's, or like, okay, like, and there's also this other attitude that people have about, fashion being glamorous and things. So often they see like, oh, someone coming from finance to fashion, that it's just like, I really like my, red heels, and now I'm just going to swap it and I want to feel good. But that wasn't really at all, the way I was coming through it. I was coming to it, I've always been very passionate about products. I'm very product driven. And I think that, as long as we're humans of this kind, like we still need to eat, we still need to drink, and it doesn't matter who you are, we always want to feel good.
Yeah.
And fashion has been used against women and actually really men and everyone as a way to make people feel like crap. Mm-hmm. And luxury houses, if you walk into a luxury house, and often they treat you like crap too. Yeah. And the more they treat you like crap, the more you buy.
I know.
It's like that sad saying, treat them mean and keep them keen.
Yeah.
And it's just
I didn't know that, but it seems quite accurate. I'm sure it's coming from France.
It's just from, there's a lot of luxury houses started in France, but it's the same kind of attitude here in Toronto. Just go and, and experience it. And so I never really liked that. And then, also like there is sometimes this imbalance between the actual product you're getting, what it's worth, and then like the cost of it, because of all these other frivolous stuff that people add to it. I just didn't think that, there needed to be $1,000 shoes.
Yeah.
I love brands, and that's aside, but I really wanted to change that. And then coming back to, how fashion, made people feel, is that, it's often used when it comes to women, is that, God forbid a woman ages past the age of 20, God forbid you see like a gray hair, or if they don't wear the right makeup, or if they're not, supermodel looking like you, it's like they're, seriously, it's like you get that, you're not enough, that there's constant message. And it's called this constant message is actually benefiting those companies. That's why they do it.
Yeah.
And I really, it got to a point when I was like really looking at this space, it didn't sit well with me. And then we look at representation, like now people talk about diversity. When I was looking at Zavel, 6 years ago, people were not talking about it. Mm-hmm. Then when there is diversity, they have this like one token person, and it looks exactly the same way. And it got like all entrepreneurs, if it was a problem that annoyed me, and I wanted to do something about it. And for me, I didn't have I knew that I didn't want to raise money to do this. And starting with shoes, as the costs are huge, because I wanted to design them myself, but also make unique products. So I didn't want to just go to the a mediocre factory and like buy some stuff like some people do, and that's okay. I wanted them to create from scratch the designs that I had. So a lot of them had a lot of proprietary elements, and there's a lot of upfront costs that goes with it, the last, the heels, all of that. So I sold my condo to do this, and again it's like, of course, everyone thinking that it was like that I'm nuts and all of that, but I had no other choice. And so I took this money, and that was like the seed capital. And I had made 3 shoes, and I didn't really have a website for a direct-to-consumer kind of brand, because I didn't have all the funds, and I used Shopify, and the design was like real shitty. It was kind of like embarrassing when I look at it. But if you're not embarrassed about some of your first products,
exactly.
then really, there's something
you waited
wrong.
Too long. You waited too long.
So I put all the money into the physical product, because I knew that. I wanted people to see it. That's when you see it. And to this day, that's always been our strategy. It's like all the money goes into the physical product, into what people feel and what they live with, as opposed to the, frivolous stuff that a lot of, fashion brands do, or people expect you to do. So for me, I had to go out and sell it, because I needed, in order to sell more shoes, to make more shoes, I needed to sell more shoes. So I did trunk shows, I went to law firms. I, stood there, smiled, sold shoes one by one. And, to this day, I still love doing that because it's a way for, to meet people, to get them, to understand what our brand is about. And, going back to, in the beginning, for example, when I was trying to understand this space, how can I bring attention, to the brand? Because it's all about, it takes over 10 years to build a brand.
Yeah.
And if you look at, these big houses, they are like 50 years old, some of them 100 years old. And, the founders are no longer there. And, it's like they have so much distribution. So of course you see them and, but, I, right now, even if I want, Zavel to be around 100 years from now, and I actually built it in order for it to be, I have to be patient, but I still need to pay my bills. I still need to go because it's still self-funded. And, people will tell you like hire a really, expensive PR agency and they'll get you to own all these things, or like, make, chase all these celebrities and like, give all of these things. Or like make these super, high heels for celebrities so that they can wear it. And in the beginning, I tested with a couple of these things, with the exception of the expensive PR agency, because I just never had the money to do that. But I had a lot of expensive PR agency chase me because they felt that they could represent us. And the thing is also like, one thing that brands don't admit is like when a celebrity wears your product and like you're talking to an editor or press and they're like, oh, did this really work for you, and they mention that particular celebrity, it's like we all say yes, it was so good. Like I've done it myself too, because you're not going to say like, because you want that person to wear your shoes again, that you gave them, gave it to them, that you gave it, so you're not going to. So you say yes, but then you really look at it, what it all comes, you have to be aware of who you are and who the brand is, who's my customer. As my customer, I made a lot of 4-inch heels that a lot of like, A-list celebrities wore it. And I will tell you that did nothing for my sales.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people that follow those A-list celebrities don't have money to go buy it.
Exactly. Yeah. That's not your target
for other reasons.
Yeah.
And the women that really I'm catering to, like you, like the, smart, intelligent women who are, making big moves in their lives, they're not necessarily spending time looking at these celebrities and then rushing to go buy the Zavel shoes at a celebrity. That's not, but it's, all the people that that the industry is serving, it's not in their best interest to tell you that, and actually they don't also understand. And I see Zavel as a challenger brand. We are here to challenge this perception of way of doing, of making women feel like shit. Constantly telling them, like we're not a prescriptive brand. I'm a very independent person, and I take that approach as well with the brand. We never tell women, buy this shoes and pair it with this bag. I always tell people like wear it however you want. And for me, the best compliment is seeing a stranger on the street wearing it however she wants. She doesn't have to, wear it with this or that to please me because it was in my lookbook. No.
So I bought, these tremendous sneakers from your gold shoes, very subdued, obviously, like everything I do. And the day after, I'm walking on the street, and there's that man with his 2 kids. He's like, "Oh my God, your shoes are so great!" And you're like, "Oh, but that's a sincere compliment."
Yes.
To your point, if you want to wear your sneakers with your balgon, your jeans with your suits, more power to you. I really like how you make the parallel between your approach of life, which is very individual, and what you build and how you align that with Zavel. And I think that's really something people resonate with too. is the fact that there is not that pressure of, oh, you don't have the latest model. Oh, you don't wear it like a 20-year-old model with that short skirt or whatever you're supposed to do.
It is,
and that's really a reflection of your own personality as well, which is interesting. Like when you're mentioning going to peer agency or going with celebrities, it really make me think about this playbook you're supposed to follow. It's
absolutely,
like the playbook for life, but here it's playbook for business, which no one wants to admit that, guess what, it's not me. And and it doesn't necessarily work either.
It doesn't guarantee success.
That's no one wants to say.
Nobody will say it. And the only people will talk about it are the ones that it's benefiting them.
Exactly.
Like the expensive PR agencies, or the expensive. And I want to go back to something you said, that the networking.
Yes.
Is that my approach with. I love meeting people, and I mean, we are social creatures, and and what I loved about actually the thing years ago, an old CEO of State Street, a global advisor, said, sales is a contact sport. You need to have that contact. To have it. And I love that. And I just think that everything in life is about a contact sport. We want to have contact. But I've never been the person that loves to go to like 10 networking events, and like back in the days where people giving out cards and like taking all these cards and then coming and putting it on LinkedIn. That's not me, like going and like speaking to someone for every 5 seconds. It's just it's never sat well with me. And I feel like that is it's just not how I want to spend my time. So I always, if I go to any event, I spend time getting to know people. I may just meet 2 people, but I will have really great conversations with them. And I've always been selective like that in terms of going and meeting. And I'm also not looking to like meet the most senior person in the room. That's never been my approach. It's always been about personal versus like, oh, like what are you doing, and how can I tell people that I know you, how can I get to know you? And that's the approach that I've taken in Zavel too. I don't the illusion is that like if you're in fashion, whether it's the same thing really, if you want to get the top job in finance, go to these networking events, do all these things, when I was in finance, and I'll use this example to maybe people were listening to are more in these fields, is that I did do volunteer work with women in capital markets, but I was always very focused about what is it that I wanted to do. And if I look back, everything was all about I just wanted to change the narrative for women. And that's why those those mentorship things, and it was always about sharing the stories of women who didn't necessarily do it like a particular way. Because for me, I didn't want to get a CFA. Like that's just, I didn't care for it. But I wanted to have this career, and I was going to make it in another way. And I think that there's not always, if you have to know first, what it is that you want to achieve. And even if you don't know what it is that you want to achieve, you have to, take steps to figure it out. But the best way to, waste your life is to just take somebody's playbook and say like, okay, I'm going to do, A, B, and C. Like I'm going to get my CFA. I'm going to do, it's like, well, if I was going for that, maybe I would have never got it, because it was just, I'm not interested in it. I probably wouldn't, do the time. And I remember there's this new designation. What was it? CAIA, whatever. So I actually went and registered for that, got all my books, because I was like, I'm going to, study this. But I never did anything with it because it just wasn't the way that I was driven. I don't want to, spend my time. I love deals, but I look at business and maybe numbers of finance in a very different way. And there's people who will do it much better than me. So, that's good for them. But just doing all the playbooks and stuff, it's, it doesn't work. So I always like to spend my time with people who are not chasing this glorified, like playful, playbook stuff. And, I'm not, my circle of people are very different now than they were back in the day. But you and I are, still great friends, and, and we get, better every day. And I think that really says a lot about you, because our relationship was genuine. It wasn't based on like where we were working or us working together in the in the right way and all of that. And I think that's what people need to focus. It really is. It may feel like you're not getting the break, but I did also do all the right things that you're supposed to do, and I remember at State Street doing all the right things and, going to my boss and saying like, hey, I'm not getting paid for what this job is worth. And his answer was like, sometimes you're in a position like me where, you just hope people don't notice how much you're getting paid because it's a lot. And you're like, hope they don't notice because, and I can't believe he said that to me. And then sometimes it's like, you're not getting paid enough. You just got to be patient. And I was like, and the thing that stung more was like him telling me he earns so much. And and this was me like doing all the right things, which was like, shut up and be a good girl, and don't ruffle the feathers and like do all the right things. And I was like, hey, it's not working for me being a good girl. Good girl. And and oddly, it was just like, it's not getting there. And I'm not saying go ruffle feathers for the sake of it to be me. I ruffled feathers because I believed and I wanted to contribute to the company's bottom line. So if I was out and about and on the, check this out, on the subway, and I meet someone that is at this big pension fund, and her and I are chatting, and she invites me in to pitch at the pension fund, and like some guy who's been working 10 years hasn't got a meeting, I'm ruffling their feathers because how dare I, and it's just, and that's what I don't like about when organizations get to the big level, because people aren't actually working on helping the bottom line of companies. They're helping on keeping their own jobs secure, which, it's just, that's never been my mindset. It's anywhere I've worked, I've always treated it like it's my company. I want this company to succeed. So you just have to decide like, what kind of person do you want to be? Do you want to, have the playbook, but then if you weren't born in the playbook, if you didn't go to Upper Canada College or Queen's University, or didn't get, 2 MBAs from there, well, how are you going to, that playbook somebody gives you is not going to work for you.
Exactly. And, that's really why I started these conversations, because what I'm trying to convey is what you just said is, okay, that playbook has been serving a very small group of people for the longest time, but it's not going to serve people like you and I, and like most people. So stop trying to play with a playbook that was built by people who had already everything for themselves, and you're wasting your time, and you're going to be very disappointed. Well, for that not being real. And that was a great way to finish it, actually. I couldn't have put the words in your mouth better, obviously, because you're way more eloquent than I am at first, but that's exactly the spirit of it. And thank you so much, Elle, for taking the time and, sharing so much insights. I really, really like, how you build a career on being different and owning it, which I know is very difficult. And I really, really thank you for sharing that with all your honesty and candor and usual kindness. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure talking to you, and I'm excited for this series. I can't wait to watch, all the people that you interview.
Thank you so much, Elle, and thank you for allocating so much time. I know you're extremely busy, and good luck with your new men's line.
Yes.
Very, very excited. Congratulations on all your success as well.
Thank you so much, Peggy.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.